When I was going through chemo, I learned something about kindness that I can't unlearn. I noticed that most people, when they found out I had cancer, and I'm talking about strangers, so not people I know, something would shift in their face. Their voice would change, their face would soften. They would see me in a way that they weren't seeing me just 30 seconds before. I could see the kindness in their eyes. And it wasn't fake either. I could tell. It was real, genuine care from people who didn't even know me just an hour before. And I was so grateful for it because it really filled my heart. I know some people, they get offended when people treat them different based on what they're going through. And I used to be like that too. But when I was diagnosed with cancer, I needed every single drop of kindness that I could get. I drank it up like water because I need water. But I would drive home from errands and would think, why does it take cancer for this kind of kindness to come out? And that's what I want to talk about today. This is Inner Image. I am Andrea John, and the character trait from Proverbs 31 that we're talking about today is kind. So come and have a seat at the table. I'd love to have this conversation with you. Let's chat. Welcome to the In Her Image podcast. I'm your host, Andrea John. This is season 4, Formed, Becoming Who God Made You to Be. In this season, I get to sit down with incredible women for honest, weekly conversations as we explore the character traits of the Proverbs 31 woman. Pull up a chair and join the conversation. Let me share with you what I mean by all of that, some experiences that I had. There were 2 moments that I remember when I was going through chemo that I've never forgotten because it just hit me so hard. I mean, there were actually several moments, but these 2 really stood out. And when I tell them to you, I don't know, maybe it's going to sound small and insignificant, but it really impacted me. They definitely were not small moments for me. The first one was when we were on vacation in Gatlinburg. We were there with the family. And while I was there, I was just having really bad pain and it was horrible to sleep. I really was struggling. So I reached out to my doctor, told them about it, and they called in a prescription to the local pharmacy. So I went into the pharmacy to pick up my prescription, and the tech behind the counter was doing what they do every single day, right? Taking one person at a time in line, asking the questions. And it was my turn. And I walked up to the counter and he asked me, okay, what's your name? What's your date of birth? Do you have insurance? That whole bit, because it was a different pharmacy from the one I go to because I was on vacation. And I mean, I had heard him ask these questions before I went up. So obviously, these are questions that if you've picked up prescription, they ask all the time. So he wasn't being rude or anything like that. He was just, it's monotonous. You get used to it. You're kind of not even paying attention to the person in front of you. This is your job. You're just trying to get through the person to get to the next one. He was working, and I was just another person in front of him. And I'll never forget, he took my prescription and he looked at it. And when he looked at it, I saw him look up at me and his face changed. I watched like sympathy or empathy, or I don't know, but I watched like his shoulders drop and his eyes just filled with compassion and kindness. Like I saw kindness fill his eyes. His voice changed. And when he looked at me, he actually looked at me in the eyes. Like, I don't know if you've ever picked up a prescription, but like, it's very transactional, right? They're just trying to get through you, get to the next person in line. But he looked at me, and not like just a customer, like a friend, like a human. And he asked me, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you need us to explain anything? Or, so those are questions that you hear all the time, but, like, he cared. I could tell. He meant it. Like, when he asked me, "How am I doing?" He meant it. And that was the difference. He didn't ask me how I was doing out of habit because I had seen him doing that before. He stopped and he looked at me and he asked me genuinely how I was doing. Almost like he wanted me to know that I wasn't alone and there was help. And he wound up, I talked to him and I let him know what was going on. And he walked me through what I needed to know about the medication to make sure that I got relief as quickly as possible. I walked out of the store and went into the car and got emotional. And I told my husband what had just happened because the kindness that he showed me in that moment, the tech, not my husband, was disproportionate to the moment. Like, I was just picking up some pills. I had done this so many times. I saw him doing this with people in front of me. It's just normal. But I left with this, I left with revelation. I left with, I witnessed something. I witnessed what it feels like to really be seen. Like, I saw the shift from not being seen to being seen. And it happened another time. I was in Publix, I was in the line, and I don't even remember what I was buying or I was there because I'm there all the time. But the cashier was this woman I see all the time. And she's always been super sweet and the kind of person who calls you sweetie. And she was just doing her job, scanning, small talk, doing all the stuff and asking, at Publix, they ask you, did you find everything you need today? And usually my answer is, I found more than I needed today. And I don't know, somewhere in the small talk, it came up, and she learned out of cancer and I was going through chemo and I don't remember exactly how it went, but when I told her that what was happening, like, her face changed, just like that pharmacy tech face changed. It softened and, like, she started to slow down and she looked up and looked at me. Like, again, it was different. She looked at me. It's not that she wasn't looking at me before, but she looked at me. I could see the kindness in her eyes. And she starts bagging the groceries herself, and there's a bagger there, but she's doing it too as we keep talking. And she told me about her sister who had gone through treatment as well. And, she gave me the receipt. And as she did, she looked at me and she said, "You're going to be okay." And she meant it. I'm sorry for getting emotional, but she meant it. She didn't know me. Like, obviously, we see each other all the time because that's my Publix, but she had no reason to be kind like that. She had no reason, but she did. And I, walked out and got into my car and sat there and again got emotional. It happened a lot. It happens a lot when life teaches me things. And I thought, man, why does it take someone having cancer to treat them with life-changing kindness? Nothing extravagant happened. She didn't do like anything extraordinary. It was just a deeply bonding human moment where, like, her entire body and the energy within her was filled with love and kindness and compassion, and I, the person on the other end, could feel it. And then a different thought came, and not like what's wrong with people that they're not always like this, because I'm just like, why does it take cancer for people to be that kind to me? But the question that came is like, what's wrong with us? as humans? What's wrong with me that I'm not always that kind of kind? And when I say that kind of kind, I mean authentically kind. Before cancer, I had been the woman scanning groceries faster and the moving through the pharmacy line really fast, and I was polite and I was nice. I was the, "Hey, have a good one." I mean, I'm the person who leaves the store and wishes the cashier having a good day, whether they do it to me or not. And cancer pulled the curtain back, and those moments specifically pulled it back and showed me very plainly that there was a whole register of kindness in human beings that we keep locked away for people who are suffering. I started to wonder, why? Why do we wait? Why does someone have to be in extreme pain, going through a difficult situation, be very sick for us to demonstrate that kind of kindness? I'm going to tell you something that I learned on the other side of that whole experience. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone. And cancer was a very small piece of my struggle. To be honest, on the radar of all the things, it wasn't that major, but to other people, it was like they didn't understand what I was going through, or it kind of was quiet, but the cancer was a whole different story and one that people could understand. So when they heard it, they treated me different. But everyone is going through something. Everyone, whether you see it or not. And I learned that. I learned that the woman in front of you in line, the cashier ringing something up, the kid going through the drive-through, the neighbor you wave to and never talk to, your husband or your sister or the mom that you saw at school or in the playground, every single one of them is walking around with something. The only difference between them and a cancer patient or someone going through like a severe illness is that you can't see it. And the verse we're looking at today in terms of kindness is Proverbs 31:20. And I think it answers God's answer to that question. Why do we wait? Because he's saying we don't. The verse I keep coming back to is this verse 20, and it's so small and one of those verses that you've probably read 100 times and skipped over because it sounds so simple and obvious. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. That's it. It's the whole verse, right? Pretty simple, inconspicuous. But now when we read Proverbs 31, we tend to camp out around the verses that seem related to action, like she rises before the sun and she makes linens and she sells them. Like we focus on the productivity. What can we do more of? The verses that make us feel like we should be running like a Fortune 500 company while we're baking sourdough bread and breastfeeding our kid. But this verse, it's almost like, in a way, passive, right? She opens her arms. And it's passive, but it's active. And I think it's a very important one because everything else this woman does, the rising early, the making, the working, the building, it really flows out of this verse. Her work is not the point. Her posture is the point. She is a woman with open arms. I want to look at two words in this verse, just two. The first word is open. She opens her arms to the pure. Not receives or not welcomes, she opens, which means at some point her arms were closed. They had to be, because for you to open your arms, that means there was a gesture before, right? So you can only open your arms if your arms were closed before. And I don't know about you, but I think that's so relatable because sometimes our arms are closed and sometimes they're open because we all go through different things in life. This woman that we lift up as the picture of godly femininity, the scripture is showing us that her arms were not always open. She learned to open them, right? She means it as a practice, which means it's a choice. It means we can learn to do it too, just like her. If you're listening to this and you're driving or you're folding laundry or you're breastfeeding your child or you're on a walk, I want you to hear me say this right now. Are you ready? You are not broken because your arms are tired. You're not failing because today they choose to feel closed or unable to bring anyone in. You're not less of a Christian, a mother, a woman, a wife, because some days you have nothing left to give. You're human. And you live in a world that's been pulling at you for a very long, long time. This is the beauty of community. The moments your arms are tired, someone else's arms are going to be open for you to take you in. And when your strength comes back, you'll be able to open up your arms to bring someone else in. This is the beauty of community and why we need one another. We all help each other move in life. The second word I want to talk about is the word extends. She extends her hands to the needy. Now, this is different because opening means you're opening so that someone can come in. Extending means you're reaching beyond yourself. It means going farther than you're comfortable. It means stretching beyond your natural radius. For example, if you're watching on video, right? Like you see my hands where they are right now as I speak, because I speak with my hands. To extend my hands, I need to move them beyond what's comfortable. What's comfortable is where they are right now as I speak. But to move them beyond comfort, I need to extend. Hopefully that helps you. And most of us have a radius of kindness. If we're being honest, we're kind to people inside our circle who are closest to us. We're kind to people who are easy to love, people who love us back, the people look like us, believe like us, go to church with us, parent like us, worship with us. It's easy, though that's a comfort, a kindness, right, that we have. But the Proverbs 31 woman is not inside her radius. She reaches past it. She's extending towards the needy, which in Hebrew is a word that means the afflicted, bowed down, the one who is pressed low by life. In other words, she's moving towards the people most of us would rather not see or be bothered by. This is one of those verses that I think we've softened. We've turned this into like a sweet image, a nice woman handing out bread, smiling. But in Hebrew, this word is pretty gritty. This is a woman who has reordered her life to make room for people that society and culture have written off. She's not kind because she has extra. She's kind because she has seen. And maybe that's the difference. Kindness is not about how much we have, it's about how much we see. Because ultimately, anything we do have or don't belongs to Him, and it's about seeing that. Polite people, they don't see. Polite people get through the day. They perform. Their focus is on image and being proper. They smile when they're supposed to smile and they say what they're supposed to say and they keep their hands to themselves and they get home and lock the door and then they exhale because now they don't have to be bothered with other people. Another word to say this is they're nice. But nice isn't a fruit of the Spirit. Kindness is. Kind people see. Kind people notice the cashier whose feet are aching because they keep adjusting their stance. Kind people notice the pharmacy tech whose smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. Kind people notice the friend whose texts sound a little bit shorter or their sigh a little bit deeper. Kind people notice their children, not just know they're around, but like actually notice them. Kind people notice the way their husband says, I'm fine, when they're clearly not. And they care. They care why. To be kind is to choose to keep their eyes open in a world that is constantly inviting you to close them because it is a scary world out there. And to close our eyes would feel safer, even though it's really not. To keep our eyes open, that's hard work. And I want you to know that I recognize it. It's hard work. And it's the work that this particular verse in Proverbs 31 is calling us to. But there's something that I took a really long time to figure out because I used to think that kindness was like a personality trait. I thought some women were just born to be kind. You know, they're soft spoken, they're the ones who remember everyone's birthday and shows up with a gift all the time. And the rest of us, we're okay. We're capable, we're useful. We have other personality traits. We're reliable. We're just not that kind. But that was a lie I believed for a long time. And I learned that through my experiences because kindness is not a personality. Kindness is a fruit rooted in God's love. It's rooted in God. It's a fruit produced when you are in God. And it's something you choose to be and live. Because when you're rooted in God, you're going to choose to live a life of that bears fruit. Some days it costs you very little. It's so easy. And some days it costs you everything you have. Because again, life is scary and life is hard. But it's not something a few women were born with and others just simply don't have. It's a fruit. Galatians 5:22 tells us that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. Notice that when we go through the character traits of the Proverbs 31 woman, you can see the fruit of the Spirit in her all over the place. Fruit doesn't fall from the tree by accident. Fruit grows over time under conditions with when something deeper is being tended to. So the question isn't, am I a kind woman? The question is, what am I tending? Because what we tend is what grows. And if I'm tending my offense, my exhaustion, if I'm tending comparison or a list of grievances, if I'm tending to doom scrolling constantly or a pity party, I'm going to harvest all those things. Of course I will. You grow what you tend to, but if I'm tending to his presence and his love, if I'm letting him do something inside of me before I demand something out of myself, then kindness becomes this natural fruit of an interior life that's in repair. You don't have to make yourself kinder. You have to let yourself be loved first. And here's where I want to turn because the devotional doesn't stop at being kind. That's where most teachings stop, right? Here's the lesson. Here's what I have to share with you. So just be kind. Be a kinder version of yourself, as if you could grit your teeth and will your way into open hands and extending hands. The devotional and the way I teach it says something different. It says, God as love is the source of all true kindness, right? Compassion, all that comes from his love. In other words, we don't generate it. I don't generate it. You don't generate it. we reflect it. And that sure does change everything because it takes the pressure off, right? Our roots is essentially what's going to determine the fruit that comes out. So all we have to do is be rooted in his love, be rooted in him. Because if I think that I have to generate kindness, then on a tired day, on a day I'm exhausted, I have nothing. I'm a dry well. I'm scraping from the bottom. I'm performing kindness with this tight jaw and a bitter heart. And I resent people for it. And everyone around can feel it. Listen, everyone can feel it. They know, especially children. But if I'm reflecting kindness because I'm resting in his love, rooted in his love, it's not something that comes from me, it comes from him. It's not something I produce, it's something I'm reflecting. And if I'm letting the love of God land on me first and then letting it move through me, then on a tired day, I don't have to find it inside of myself, right? I get to receive it and pass it on. That's it. That is the entire posture shift. The God of Scripture, God we see in the Bible, he is described over and over again as a God of, and hopefully I say this right, chesed. And that is a beautiful word, but it's also an untranslatable word, which is why in different translations, you're actually going to see a few different types of words for that word. And it's a Hebrew word that means something like a loyal love, faithful kindness, mercy that does not run out. It's the kindness that pursued Hagar in the desert, the kindness that met the prodigal son when he returned home from all his adventures out in the wild. It's the kindness that asked Adam, "Where are you?" Not because God didn't know where he was, but because he wanted Adam to know he would pursue him and he would be chased, even though shame caused Adam to go hide and think God had rejected him. God pursued Adam and found him and then helped him. And that's a story for another day. But do you see how God moves toward us? That is one of the most important truths that we see in scripture. When I constantly say we need to find God in scripture, who does scripture say God is? This is one of the most important truths that we find in the Bible. He doesn't stand at a distance and wait for us to clean ourselves up. He runs. Like the story of the prodigal son is that beautiful story that illustrates that he runs toward us in our mess when we're ready to finally turn towards him, because he never turns away from us. He's always pursuing and chasing and loving. When we turn towards him and we're ready to do that, he runs towards us, even in that mess, because he comes with us with his arms wide open before we even earn them. Like, you don't earn it. You just turn and say, "I want to come back." And he's like, "Yes, come towards me." And he extends his hands when we're tired and we're broken and we're dirty and we feel like we have just ruined our lives and we don't deserve this kind of love. But he opens his arms and he extends it towards us anyway. Here's the part that I want you to hold on to today. Kindness of God, it's not based on what you deserve. Because I don't think we actually ever deserve that kind of love from him. Like, because he knows, like, we're not perfect, That kind of kindness, it's based on who he is, which means it doesn't run out when you do, when I do. It doesn't withdraw on the days that your prayers aren't existent. It doesn't shrink when you've snapped at your kids and you slam a door and you're just crying, asking yourself, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea. Why did that just happen? You know what happens in those moments? God moves towards you in that moment, not away. He doesn't look away from you. No, he's with you. He looks at you, like really looks at you with this deep sense of compassion and love, because he does. He loves you. He gets you. He's not waiting for you to compose yourself before he loves you. He loves you into composure. And that's the kind of kindness that we're called to reflect. That's what in her image means, to live in her image, in the image of the Proverbs 31 woman who is herself the echo of God's heart, is to learn to love like he loves, toward, not away, and with open arms, with seeing eyes. So in this conversation, what I want you to take away something, right? I want you to walk away with something for you to reflect. This is not just something for you to hear and leave and be like, "Oh, that was nice." No, I want this to help you. Okay? So I'm going to leave you with a few questions, and you don't have to answer them right now. You may want to journal them, or maybe, when you're in the car driving, you can think through them, or when you have a quiet moment, whether tonight or in the morning. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. Where in your life have your arms been closed? Just notice, without judgment, where have you closed up? Maybe it's a relationship or someone at work, maybe it's someone in your family that you've stopped extending towards because it has hurt way too many times. Maybe it's a whole group of people you've decided you're done with. Maybe it's yourself and your arms are closed against your own heart. Where have your arms been closed? The second question is, who is just outside your radius? Someone that you keep almost noticing but haven't moved towards them yet, like a woman at the school pickup line, or a friend you've been meaning to text, or a coworker that you can tell they're going through something, or a mom who's just gone quiet all of a sudden, who's just outside your radius. And the third question, this is going to be the hard one. When was the last time you let yourself receive kindness? Not gave it or receive it. Because the truth is, the women who are most generous with kindness are the ones who've made peace with receiving it. They've learned to let it land. They've learned to let someone bring them dinner without writing a thank you novel. And they've learned to let their friend hug them without changing the subject. They've learned to let God love on them on a tired day. If your arms have been closed lately, it may not be because you don't have anything to give. It might be because no one has handed you anything in a long time and you forgot what it felt like. So let yourself receive it. That's where this begins. Now, here's a practical way, because you guys know I like to make this practical. Here's the practical way. And it's kind of a small thing on purpose to make it easy, right? I always want to make this easy for you. One small little thing. Pick one person who's outside your usual circle. So, not a close friend, not your mom, not someone who's like easy to love, someone just outside, and do one small, deliberate thing for them. It doesn't have to be like a grand gesture, not something that like you're going to post online and be like, hey, look how great I was. No. Something quiet, like, I don't know, write a note, send them a text message, uh, grab them a coffee, pay for someone's coffee in line, Sit with someone who you always see alone and introduce yourself. Call the friend that you've been meaning to call, something simple like that. And do it without telling anyone. Do do it without posting about it. Do it without expecting anything back. Just do it. And here's the part I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to what happens inside of you when you do it. Now, what happens to the other person? Because we know that that has an impact on them. I want you to notice what happens to you because I'll tell you what I've found over and over again in seasons when I have felt the most empty, like I had nothing to give. The way back is usually not receiving more. The way back was always me opening up my hands and extending them. And every time I did that, I don't know, something in me just unlocked. Something inside me would flow again. Like I felt fulfilled and had this sense of purpose. Kindness is not a drain on you. It's actually like a circuit. It should energize you. You move towards someone and heaven moves towards you, and the flow comes back, and you find yourself with more than you started with. Every single time when you give, you receive. That is a spiritual law. It's one of the most reliable spiritual laws that I know. I mean, even people who aren't Christian or Bible followers understand the law of sow and reaping. So I just want you to try it this week. Pick a person, do the one thing, and then write me. I want to know what happens. I want to know what you did, and I want you to tell me what it did for you. And sometimes what it does for you has to do with what it did for them, but it brings you this sense of fulfillment and purpose. And I want to hear all about it. Now, we're just about done, but before we go, I want to say this. If you're someone who's listening to this right now and you're carrying something that no one can see, I want you to know that you're not invisible to God. He is with you. He is not the pharmacy tech moving through you, getting to the next person in line. He's not the cashier who's on autopilot scanning your items. He is the one whose face changes when he looks at you. Except his face has always been that face. He's always been seeing you that way. He's been the woman behind the counter your whole life, looking up and meaning it. That's who he is. That's who he is for you. He's not waiting for you to be sick so he can soften his voice for you. He's not waiting for you to fall apart to slow down for you. He's not waiting. He's been speaking to you in that lowered tone, like that tone that when people's voice changes, he's been speaking to you in that voice the whole time. And we're usually just moving too fast through the line to hear it. But he sees you and he's moving toward you and he's being kind to you right now in this exact moment, in this exact part of your life. And I want you to take a moment right now to perceive it. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, I want you to do for someone else what those people did for me. You don't need to wait until you know what they're carrying. Assume that they're carrying something because they are. Look up, slow down, mean it, because that's what we do here. We let ourselves be loved and then we love. Kindness is love made visible. It's that simple. If this conversation did something for you today, I want you to know that there is a place where you can join us online. We have a private Facebook group with women on the same journey that you are, women who just love God. And we have women going through all sorts of things, and we're there to support one another. So if you're needing that encouragement, that love, or you need a place to show that kind of kindness, this is a good place for you to practice. You can go to facebook.com/groups/in her image. You'll have the link in the show notes, and I would love for you to join us there. We talk about all sorts of things, and it's definitely a very supportive community. I know every time I have asked those ladies for prayer, God has answered like that. It's just incredible. I want to thank you for being here and sitting at the table with me. I know you're a busy lady and you have so many other things to do, or you could have been listening to something else while you were doing what you were doing, but you chose to sit at this table and have this conversation. And, I pray that it was fruitful for you and I pray that you got something out of it. I can't wait for our next conversation so I can tell you that we're going to have Deborah with us, and I'm so excited for you to meet her. She is just a breath of fresh air and an absolute joy. We're actually going to cover a topic that we've covered in a previous episode, and I so wanted you guys to meet her, but none of the character traits we have moving forward, I felt led to have a conversation with her about. I actually felt to talk to her about something we've already discussed, and she has a different perspective and insight. And I wanted to talk to her about it. So can't wait for you to meet Deborah next week. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast so that you don't miss that episode. Make sure to share it with a lady who you think would benefit from it. Make sure to like and comment and share your thoughts with me, whether you agree or don't agree. Give me your perspective because this is a conversation. All of those things help this podcast grow and reach women just like you who love God and are just needing some love in the world and reinforcement and community. I love you all, and I will talk to you all in the community. Talk to you soon. Bye.